Get me that signal. We need more power.
You all know why we have come here today. To the home of the most generous hobbit, Bilbo Baggins. The portents have foretold the end of the dragon's reign. Just a fortnight ago, I received a fortune cookie that read, "You will slay a giant dragon. Your lucky numbers are 16, 21, and 42. It is time. It is time for the dwarves to take their rightful place in Erebor, the Lonely Mountain. With myself and you 7 dwarves, we can take back the mountain."
That's disgusting.
I have faith in the plan, my plan, that I have made. Me, Thorin Oakenshield. Let us go over the plan once more. I'll pretend that I, Thorin Oakenshield, represent our group. Happy, let's pretend that you are the Goblin King.
I love being the Goblin King.
Grumpy, why don't you pretend to be Gollum?
No one gets my precious.
Right. And Bashful, why don't you pretend to be Azog, the orc who slew my father, and who has a vendetta against me personally, and who I would happily slice into tiny bits, that I would then scatter to the 7 kingdoms, while displaying his head mounted above my mantle for all to see.
That's okay.
Fine. Have it your way. Now let's begin, shall we? The Hobbit Journey to the Lonely Mountain strategy game is a competitive / co-op hybrid game. If you're playing Bilbo and the company of dwarves trying to reach the Lonely Mountain, then you have no friends. You're on your own. However, if you're playing one of the bad guys, like the Goblin King, or Gollum, or Azog, then your goal is to defeat the hardy band of adventuring dwarves. But if you don't like cooperating with those ugly guys, then each evil opponent also has a solo victory condition that they can strive for. There are 4 figures, one for each player, and a Gandalf figure. See, here's the Goblin King. Azog. No! Oh no! My precious. Hello? Dr. Watson, I presume? Gandalf the Grey. Gandalf is there to help Bilbo out when he can. The figures are really good, and they can be used for playing HeroClix too. To begin with, you follow the setup instructions depending upon the number of players. You will notice that some of the tokens are difficult to distinguish which player they're actually for. Like here is an Azog token, and here is a Goblin King token. Luckily, at the bottom of the cards, it says exactly what tokens that player gets. See, isn't that cool? Everything you need is right here on these cards. Of course, you don't know that when you first start learning. The character sheets also list the combat order for the players, which is up here. Explanations for the different locations on the board, which is right here. Your starting figures and their locations, which is right over here. The turn sequence, the player order, special powers, victory conditions for group or solo. There's a lot of stuff on these cards, just so you know. Now, each player receives a set of 6 standard action cards and 3 of their own specific action cards that they randomly choose. So here's 3. The others are discarded from the game. Now, there is also a deck of common special action cards up here, as you can see. And the deck goes out here, and then 4 of them get turned up. And as the game goes on, you can use an action to buy one of those cards for future use. The 3 action cards discarded by Bilbo are special. these have pictures of the chosen dwarves for the game. If the other players manage to kill all 3 of these chosen dwarf tokens, then they win. When the Bilbo player uses one of his special action cards, the ones that he did not discard, they'll see who it is, whose name is on here. So it gives the other players a hint as to who the actual chosen dwarves are. If I use all these, then they know the other 3 are the chosen dwarves, and they'll go after them and kill them. During a turn, each player will play 2 action cards. There are 5 different standard action cards, plus a duplicate action card that you can use once per game. It lets you do one action twice. These occur in their own specific phase in order. The special action cards all show during which phase they occur. Like right here, Bofur the dwarf, this occurs during the first phase, which is the advanced phase. It even says advanced right on it. But if we look at Gollum's card, this card, Sneak Attack, occurs during the combat phase. So that's why combat is lit up here, and then you just follow the instructions on it. You can play 1 special action card in addition to your 2 standard action cards. Let's go over the phases real quick. The first phase is the advance phase. Any player who chooses to act during the advance phase reveals their advance card. So everybody who decided to do an advance phase flips up their advance card. But it still goes in order. So Bilbo gets to go first during the phase if he did something, and then it goes to the Goblin King, then Gollum, and then finally Azog, and it always goes in that order every turn for each time somebody is doing something during a phase. Bilbo and the dwarves can only move from left to right. Basically what an advance does, it allows you to move from one region to another region. So Bilbo is going this way. Boop, 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 boop. So he can move 1 space over. Now if he moves on top of this token, there might be some combat that can occur, but he can go over to here if he wants. And then there's nobody going to bother him, at least right now. Gandalf can move in either direction. Okay? And the other players all have their own movement rules. The players take turns in order, with Bilbo advancing first, then the Goblin King, then Gollum, and finally Azog. Every phase occurs in the same player order. Note that for each token you have on a lookout position, and some of these positions represent something. See this shape here? That's a lookout position. It's like a double diamond. That's a lookout position. And they're all listed up here. And plus they're listed actually on your cards, and what they do is also listed on your cards near the top. So for each lookout position you control, you get to advance 1 additional token. So controlling means that you have the only tokens in that location. Even if you're all bad guys, you have to have all the tokens in that location. So right here at Buckland Ferry, there are 3 dwarf tokens. Those are Bilbo's guys. So he controls that location. So he can move 1 token an extra spot. So he decides to move him over here for some crazy reason. Okay, you can't just move up and down. No, that's where they stay where you place them at the beginning of the game. You can only move over. Okay? Keep that in mind. Second is the reinforcement phase. Let's find that card. That allows you to bring extra tokens onto the board. You can summon an extra token for each fortress that you can control as well. So everybody has these extra tokens, and they want to get them out there so that they can attack and defend and all kinds of stuff like that. So you can bring those out by using this reinforcement action, and for every fortress that you control, which a fortress looks like that, you get to bring an extra reinforcement. So if you control 3 fortresses, you can bring out 4 tokens. I know, it's crazy, right? Third is the combat phase, everybody's favorite thing. See how it's third? Combat phase. You can fight in any location where opposing forces are stacked on top of one another. Most locations have 4 token stacking limits, and opposing tokens pin the other tokens beneath them. So if I moved this dwarfy guy on top of him, hey, they're stuck there. They can't move. The only thing they can do is try to fight him and kill him to make him move. Now, he's not pinned. These dwarves aren't pinned. They can still do what they want. But this orc dude at the bottom, he's stuck until he does something. Combat also occurs in a specific character order, just like everything else. And it's all across the top of the board and on your sheets. If you get killed before you get a chance to hit, well, oh well, you're dead. Each token has a number on it. This is the number that you will have to roll on a single die or equal to or higher to score a hit. And most tokens are killed with 1 hit. If you have any power tokens, then you can use them to force a reroll. Of course, the other player can use them. The other players can use them too. These are power tokens. You get a 1 or 2 to start the game, and you can also get more later on. Bilbo can only take 1 point of damage, but he does have luck. Each time he takes a hit, you click down his base, right? Kind of like that. When his luck reaches 0, Bilbo's dead, game's over. The other characters have special abilities that you can use by clicking their base too, and it's listed on their sheet. And some of them can be killed, so be careful. The next phase is the regroup phase, where you can gain a power token. If you can only have up to 3 power tokens at any one time, and you can earn an additional token for every haven that you control on the board. This is a haven right here. And the final phase is the rest phase. During this phase, you can pick up one of the special action cards across the top of the board. If the card has a power cost, you have to pay it with these power tokens. For example, this card here lists a power cost of 1. So you have to pay 1 power token to get this card. However, the nice thing is, this card isn't a special action. This card actually stays out the entire game. What it does is this card counts as 1 haven that you always control. Hey, that might be handy if you're trying to get a bunch of power tokens. And then when you get this card, you just flip a new card up in its spot up there. There are other special rules, like Bilbo escaping from the goblin caves and getting the 1 ring. The different regions each have some specific rules, and it can get a bit confusing with different sets of rules for each character. And remember, in order to win, the Bilbo player is trying to get his figure to the Lonely Mountain, boop, while keeping his dwarves alive. The other players are trying to stop them and kill the dwarves in order to win. That's an overview on how to play the Hobbit Journey to the Lonely Mountain strategy game from Wizkids.
Okay, let's talk about the Hobbit Journey to the Lonely Mountain strategy game. It took me some time to actually figure out what the strategy is. Each player has a different set of strategies that they can pursue. There are questions that I don't know the answer to. What happens if different victory conditions are met in the same round? For example, what if the Goblin King gains control of 1 location in every region during the same turn that Bilbo reaches the Lonely Mountain? According to the rules, Bilbo wins at the end of the round, but the Goblin King wins at the end of the turn. However, it seems that a turn and a round are the same thing. So who wins? As this may indicate, the rules are poorly done. They are difficult to read and understand. You really have to play the game to understand your goals and how they can be achieved. So it takes a game or 2 to understand what you're doing and what you should not do. Actually, it takes a game or 2 simply to understand how the game is played. Is it worth the time and effort? I think so, because it really is a strategy game. You have to examine all of the pieces on the board and plot your moves carefully. Bilbo is difficult to kill, but if the Bilbo player forgets about his dwarf companions, he might just find himself losing because they are unprotected and alone. As my understanding of the game grew, so did my enjoyment of it. Initially, I felt that the random abilities and rule minutiae were way too confusing. Once you realize that each character in the game is played very differently, you'll discover some specific strategies to help you achieve victory. If not for yourself, at least for your side. This game needs a few things to make it a really good game. First off, the rules need to be redone to be more comprehensible. Secondly, the game needs a solo play version with a player controlling Bilbo, or even one of the other characters. You need a chance to learn the game before you try to play it with other people. This Hobbit game should also be balanced enough that you could play a 2 or 3 player game with any of the enemy players. As it works now, a 2-player game is Bilbo against the Goblin King. 3 players is Bilbo, Goblin King, and Gollum. So you only get to face Azog if you play 4 players. There's no way to play Bilbo against Gollum or any other combination. That being said, we've played some exciting games of the Journey to the Lonely Mountain strategy games. Many times it comes down to one final turn to determine the winner. The end comes faster than you realize, and you are suddenly facing the end game and trying some last-minute strategic moves. If you like strategic movement games, this might be a good game for you. Plus, this is one of the better games out there based on The Hobbit. Each character in the game has their own set of victory conditions, giving everyone the chance for a solo victory if they want all of the glory and don't feel like going for the co-op destruction of the forces of good. This is a great option and adds a lot to the game. Finally, the figures are really well done, and the game comes with extra bases and cards so that you can use them in a HeroClix game as well. This was a brilliant move and almost makes the game worth it just for the figures alone. I think this game has all of the makings of a really good game right out of the box. It only needs some rule clarifications and some adjustments to make this happen. Thanks for joining me in this review of The Hobbit Journey to the Lonely Mountain strategy game from Wizkids. Let me know if you found this review helpful by leaving a comment or sending me an email at elliott_miller@voiceofe.com. Make sure to subscribe to the Voice of E channel on YouTube, like the Voice of E on Facebook, and visit our website at voiceofe.com, as I'll have plenty of gaming, entertainment, and comic book coverage this year. And it should be a lot of fun. Thanks again, and until next time, keep your mind free.
Get me that signal. We need more power.